TV trash. Well, we had one bad time travel TV show last time. Can we possibly do better this week? You will never convince me otherwise. Back to the Future is the greatest movie ever. I mean, what's not to love? This film had everything. It's a sci-fi adventure. It's a comedy. It had action. It had romance. This remains Spielberg and Zemeckis' best work as far as I'm concerned, and I enjoy all three movies almost equally. So of course I was excited when in 1991 an animated series was made for CBS Saturday morning, picking up where those movies left off. But I guess being a critic and with nostalgia now wide open for viewing, I should take another look and see if it's still as good as I remembered it. This is the Back to the Future animated series. So let's start with our opener and oh hell yeah! Okay, it's not Huey Lewis in the news, but still, this is the absolute perfect way to open it. There was nothing you could do as an opening theme song for this show other than Back in Time. The show also always opened with Christopher Lloyd reprising his role as Dr. Emmett Lathrop Brown, yes, they do explain that's his middle name at some point in this series, introducing us to the episode of the week.
And perhaps my most important invention, the flux capacitor. A device which allows me to travel through time the way most people drive across town, and with a lot less traffic.
And because back then cartoons had to shoehorn in education, he would come back at the end to give you some lesson, assisted by Bill Nye, the science guy. Yeah, I'm not kidding there. That's actually William Nye, and it was his appearances on this series that led him to getting his own show. The cartoon itself never says exactly where Doc went to at the end of the third movie, but now he has come back to Hill Valley of the present day, 1991 in this case, and has settled down with his family. And this is what always got me. Even though Christopher Lloyd was in the live shots, the animated Doc was voiced by Dan Castellaneta.
Why didn't I realize this before?
But what, Doc, what?
Always take the aluminum foil off your burrito before you put it in the microwave.
So this guy voiced both Doc Brown and Homer Simpson. That takes talent. Also, they couldn't bring back Michael J. Fox to voice Marty, and actually, Marty takes a back seat in this series. Most episodes focused on Doc and his family, particularly sons Jules and Vern.
Give me that! You said it was my turn! Unhand that input device! My work is more important than your childish shenanigans!
Jules has mostly taken up after his father and his love of science, while Vern is more of a typical 90s kid, caring more about sports and video games. Despite Vern's belief to the contrary, Doc tries to be fair in both their interests.
On one hand, Jules is on the eternal search for knowledge. On the other hand, Vern is developing hand-eye coordination, which will come in handy in the world of the future. I'm telling you, Einstein, it isn't easy being a father.
And yes, as you can probably guess, the DeLorean time machine has been resurrected from its freight train-induced demolition. At least I'm going with Doc rebuilding the original from scrap, because otherwise, that's the most unbelievable thing of this show. Really, the DeLorean DMC-12 is one of the rarest cars in existence. They only made 9,000 of them before John DeLorean's company went under. Look, Doc, I know coolness was a big factor in choosing your model, but maybe you could have picked a less difficult car to find this time? Like maybe a Dodge Charger? General Lee capable of time travel. That would be every level of awesome! And somewhere in 6 years, Doc took the concept of time travel further because the DeLorean and the locomotive can now travel through time and space thanks to audio input.
February 7th, 1895, Baltimore, Maryland. Babe Ruth's birthday.
And yeah, that's a big plot device in this series, as a number of episodes focus on Vern swiping the DeLorean and end up getting sent to whatever was spoken in the episode.
Whoa! Oh, there's that cold trash.
Must be some Yankee trick.
Big deal! I know a kid with spiky blonde hair who could time travel to anywhere he wants using just a cardboard box. Also, this DeLorean has about 24 different conversions for whatever the plot demands. Okay, the hover conversion from part 2 is back, but it also becomes a stretch limo, a submarine, a chuck wagon.
It's a good thing Doc customized the DeLorean for the Hill Valley Pioneer Days parade.
For crying out loud, I don't think Ms. Frizzle's school bus had this many options. Oh yeah, and did I mention the dog Einstein is capable of driving the car in this series?
Heine, you're right once again. It's time we headed back to the future.
Geez, I figured the Doc would have a smart dog, but damn, Lassie and Rin Tin Tin are jealous. I will say that the writers do take advantage of this new time and space format to give some fairly good stories detailing American and world history.
Stonehenge, a fascinating structure built somewhere between 2000 and 1500 BC. Many believe it to be of religious significance.
Really? I heard it was some sort of astronomical observatory. How absurd. Everyone knows it's a Robbie calendar.
Not that they don't make some big factual errors, like when Marty was nearly burned at the stake under accusations of being a witch in Salem. Witches were hanged, not burned! Of course, you could expect them to take some creative liberties, since they were more focused on making sure the episodes included...
Biff Tannen!
General Beauregard Tannen to you.
Yes, it seems nearly every episode had to include a member of the Biff Tannen family in whatever place they traveled to. Seriously, the Tannens must be the most nomadic clan in history because there's one in almost every time and region.
Is there a Tannen in every century?
The name is Antanany, Bifficus Antanany.
How dare you spring a trap on the fondo della cane?
Nobody escaped from the Huskow or Mungo P. Tannen.
At least they did bring back Thomas F. Wilson to voice each of the Tannens, along with Mary Steenburgen as Clara.
Don't touch me, you old buzzer.
I will admit my favorite episodes were the ones where instead of traveling around the world, they simply went to different time periods for Hill Valley, or instead of just showing a new Tannen by himself, they also introduced past and future McFlys and other extensions of the main characters.
That must be Jennifer's great-great-grandmother, Genevieve.
Hiya, grandmother.
Grandmother? What's your problem, boy? Buffalo kick you in the head?
Probably number one among those episodes were when Doc and Clara travel 100 years into the future to see the first solar sail ship to Mars, which is piloted by Captain Marta McFly. And yes, this is perhaps because of the added references to the movies in this one.
Isn't Jimmy wonderful? The best Marty McFly impersonator in the entire Tri-Planet area. Great-grandfather would be so happy that his music lives on.
The McFlys have been kicking Tannens around for centuries, and now we have the ultimate revenge. It's just too bad Grandpa Griff's not here to see it.
Unauthorized guest is Grandpa Griff Tannen himself.
You blew it, didn't you, butthead?
By the second season, the episode started featuring the actual Biff Tannen and introducing new citizens of Hill Valley, including Biff's son and Griff's future father, no doubt, Biff Jr. And Biff has somehow reverted back to being a jerk and a bully.
The This deed, dated 1875, proclaims my great-great-granduncle Thaddeus Cannon as sole owner of this property. I am turning this ranch into a toxic waste dump and miniature golf course.
Man, this guy's personality switches back and forth so much, you'd think the writers of Glee were in charge of his character. However, this might actually make sense, given that we know Biff will become a curmudgeon again in the future, according to the second movie. Who knows? Maybe a failed marriage between he and Junior's mom drove him back to the dark side. Sadly, not even this show could keep its continuity with its movies perfect, as evidenced in the episode when Marty and the boys meet Doc in 1967, and yet he doesn't recognize Marty despite having met him 12 years earlier. No wonder he needed to invent a memory helmet. Apparently, being a scientific genius doesn't mean you can remember faces. And yeah, it was all just to shoehorn in this joke.
Right. And I'm Michael J. Fox, noted movie star of Hollywood, California. What are you staring at?
You do sort of look like that J. Michael Fox guy.
Okay, it actually was funny. The second year also sadly started going the same route that year 2 of Bill and Ted did. There were still a number of time travel themed episodes, but they soon included storylines like Jules' invention causing the characters in Vern's video game to come to life.
Many quarters have entered the coin slot, while I have waited to turn you into my Brussels sprout-eating slave.
Or the one where Doc had to travel inside his perpetual energy machine to shut it down because it was keeping all the lights in town on forever. How is it that Doctor Who can keep churning out time travel stories for 50 years, but these cartoons can't seem to do it for more than 2? Still, 2 years isn't that bad of a run for a Saturday morning show from the 90s. Its reruns were shown on Fox Kids a while back, but so far there's been no release on Hulu or Netflix. Basically, the Back to the Future cartoon has stories that can border on ridiculous, the animation isn't exactly top-notch, and sometimes its elements border more on science fantasy than science fiction. And I still enjoy it. It does a pretty decent job staying true to the source material, and for a relatively extensive main cast compared to other cartoons, it does pretty well in balancing episodes that focus on 1 or 2 individuals. And with a few hiccups, it actually does give some good history lessons surrounding its fictitious cast. Besides, it's freaking Back to the Future, no doubt. Even the music is a slightly reworked version of what was in the movies. This was clearly the production staff doing the best they could with what they had. And trust me, compared to what the likes of Bill and Ted, The Land Before Time, and Ultima went through, this is nothing to be that ashamed of. See you next time on TV Trash, and remember, the future is whatever you make it.